My name is Walter. I'm a retired railway carman, and I began my story today by first explaining a bit about what a railway carman's duties are and skills and such, before delving into a composed story about a train derailment. During my 35-year career with the Norfolk Southern Railroad, I inspected and often repaired thousands of rail car defects. One of my duties as a car repairman was delving into hands-on experience of getting trains back on the tracks when they derailed as quickly as possible in order to keep the trains running without delays. The railroad has one main concern, and that concern is keep the freight moving without delay. So over the years, I went to train derailments and did what I could to get trains back on the track. In minor derailments, I often succeeded. Major derailments require heavy equipment and many people with lots of effort and much time to get the railroad back into service. I know because I worked major derailments for 5 or 6 years earlier in my career. I begin by first explaining what a railway carman does for the railroad, and then we will listen to a composite story compiled from my many years of doing just that. A railway carman is a person who has a thorough working knowledge of the annually published field manual of the Association of American Railroads and works in accordance with its standards in performing his daily duties and uses that knowledge to do his job well. He must also have a working knowledge of the published standards of the open-top loading rules published by the Association of American Railroads and a thorough knowledge of safety standards for the Federal Railway Administration. He must have a high mechanical ability, develop his skills and ability in order to do his work in an expert and professional manner. He must be physically fit and have the stamina to work outdoors in all sorts of weather. He must be able to work alone often and be able to make decisions and realize that the things he does affect the safety of others as well as himself. Train derailment definition according to myself. A derailment is when either one or more rail cars get off the tracks for many different reasons and can range from just one wheel to all the wheels of a car and often more than one car. And also locomotives. Most cars have 8 wheels. They occur quite frequently. Derailments do. Derailed locomotives are especially common out there on the railroad. Derailments occur regularly on the railroad, and I have had to go to many of them over the years. They happen in all sorts of weather and rarely in a place that's convenient to get to. They will continue to happen as long as there are trains rolling on tracks. Derailments take priority over just about all the other duties of a carman has, especially those out on the main line somewhere, because when the main line is blocked, no trains go anywhere until the situation is corrected. Sometimes when trains derail, it results in what most people think of as a train wreck. Train wrecks require work crews and heavy equipment to deal with. However, we had to still deal with those that simply just got off the tracks and didn't actually wreck. Handling derailments and train wrecks is strenuous work and requires constant alertness to prevent injury to oneself or others. That's a fact that I have first-hand knowledge about because I worked 5 years on a derrick wrecking crew early in my career. Nowadays, big wrecks are usually handled by private wrecking crews. I now share this scenario of a composite derailment. It's just an average day on the railroad, and I have been dispatched to a train off the tracks at a distant switch point leading into an industry out on the main line. It's not my duty to drive the trains, It's not my duty to toot the horns or to even ring the bell, but let the damn thing get off the tracks and you'll see who catches hell. I drive 40 miles to get to the derailment. I find it approximately 300 yards from a railroad crossing. I walk down the side of the track on the ballast beside the rest of the train that is still coupled up to the derailed cars. I assess the situation and find that one end of the car, next to the rear locomotive of the train, has 2 sets of wheels off the track, and the locomotive has 3 sets of wheels off the track. The train crew is standing around looking anxious and patiently waiting. The trainmaster has already arrived. He approaches me and tells me they mismatched couplings when they coupled up to their train to depart after having set out the car into that particular industry. He asked me what we can do to expedite re-railing the car and the locomotive because the main line is blocked. One train is already backed up behind them waiting to go, and an Amtrak passenger train is fast approaching. The whole time that he is talking to me, I'm looking and assessing the situation. "Well, Walter," he asked, "what do you think?" He knows my name as I have worked with him many times over various train problems. He adds Macon Mechanical has a truck en route, but they are at least an hour and a half out. We are standing on the edge of the steeply piled gravel roadbed. The sun is beating down. A massive locomotive is sitting cockeyed, its wheels biting into the ballast. We are already sweating and have not yet even begun to do any work. The trainmaster is frantic. He's looking at his watch. The air is thick in the smell of diesel and hot grease. I have determined that the rail has spread out of gauge and that it won't be easy, but that we can get it done. "Well, Mr. Jones, we will give it a shot, but I will need some help." I look at the wheels, I look at the spikes and the tie plates, and I realize the rail hasn't snapped, it's just bowed under the lateral force of the locomotive's weight. "She didn't break, Mr. Jones, she just moved. If we get the engine's weight up, the steel's memory will want to pull the rail back home. We just got to get it high enough up on a ramp." I walk back to my truck. I realize carrying the equipment that far on this steep roadbed would take far too long. I drive down into the industry where the train had just delivered a rail car. I enter the gate and circle their warehouse to the back and drive my truck beside the track as far as I can and stop. Now I'm only about 100 feet from the head of the lead locomotive, a distance of maybe 220 feet where I need the equipment. I get out and climb up the back of my truck and drag the replacers to the edge, and they're quite heavy. They weigh 200 or 300 pounds apiece. I lift and fling the heavy replacers off towards the ground. The sound of the steel hitting the ground is loud clang. I bend and start tossing several large wooden oak blocks off the truck and some wood wedges. Although it's not their job, the train crew begin carrying the blocks where we need them, and a couple of men from the track repair crew has arrived, grabbed the first replacer, and carry it away for me as well. I climb down, grab the second replacer, and the trainmaster, usually a suit and tie guy, has to grab the other end to help me. It's heavy, awkward, and real. We lift and stumble our way behind the others. Now we have all that I think we need on hand and can begin the process of getting the car and locomotives back on the track. I strap on some knee protectors, something we only started using a couple of years ago, and I'm ready to begin. I have determined that the rail will probably pop back closer together as soon as the locomotive is back up. I crawl under the locomotive between the wheels and the fuel tanks. It's just a small area. It's kind of hard to squeeze in there. And I reach and drag the inside replacer in behind me. After digging out the rocks between the cross ties next to the inside wheels that are derailed, I slide the replacer as close as I can, get it, and pry with a small bar and manipulate it where it needs to be. I hook over the top of the rail and let it settle back into place next to the cross ties where it'll be locked in. I crawl my way back out from under the locomotive, squeezing my way past some greasy hoses and sand pipes. We then sit the outside replacer near the wheels that are derailed on the outside of the rails. I get on my hands and knees again and hook it on the rail the same way I did the other one. By now I'm sweaty, considerably dirtier than I was when I arrived, but the hardest part is done on the locomotive. I see the trainmaster looking at his watch, and I say, "Well, Mr. Jones, we're ready to re-rail the locomotive." I tell the conductor to have his engineer move the locomotive and slowly forward, and he gets on the walkie-talkie. The engines rev up some, and the locomotive gets hard up against the re-railers. I then tell him, "Rev it up and pull with all you can." The engines strain. The smoke pours from the exhaust pipe. The locomotive begins to move. The massive steel wheels start to climb the replacers. There's a terrifying moment when the metal screams, then thunk clunk. The wheels find the rail, and in a matter of seconds the engine has pulled back up on the tracks, one set of wheels following the other. They move forward about a car length and stop. The track gang that has been standing around idle jumps in with their hammers and bars and jacks and begin driving spikes, and within a few minutes they have secured the rail. In the meantime, I have slid under the derailed tank car that is derailed and placed some blocks and wedges in front of the wheels that are derailed on the inside of the track, so that the truck sides can clear the rail and not push the wheels the wrong way. As we drag the replacers to the cars and hook them in front of the wheels, the locomotive comes back and couples to the tank car, and in short order we have re-railed the tank car in much the same manner we did the locomotive. I dragged the replacers out from under the tank car, and the track gang handles the finishing touches on repairing the tracks. The train departs shortly thereafter with a wave from the crew, who are very glad to get away from there. Glad to be back in their seats. I'm sitting on the dirt mound near the tracks, waiting for the next two trains to clear and wondering how to get this stuff back in my truck, 'cause everybody else is gone. When I see the Macon truck drive up, I think to myself, them boys don't know it yet, but they're going to carry my replacers for me. I'm tired. I didn't get no lunch today, and I'm going to put them to work. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little story today. Your comments are most welcome. This is Pwalpar. Going to conclude our story for today.